So tactical athlete, as a former Navy SEAL, someone that's works out every day and one of the more athletic people I've ever worked with, what do those words mean to you?
To me, it feels like a buzzword that's been circulating around the last 10 years or so. And for me, when I hear tactical athlete, that it leads me to believe that you think there's an off season. And there isn't. Not that I've ever been a part of. Like, you're only in season for your entire career. There's never a point where they tell you to break it down like, okay, take the next 4 months off, just chill, rest, like regroup, and we'll kick it back in when the fall hits. It's never a thing. So everything you do in the gym, that's essentially your warm-up for the actual job you're about to go do. We're not a football team. Like, you're in season all day long. You never come off of it. And to me, when I think about athletics, like, there's a season, a postseason. Like, there's a big spin-up, there's a big build-up, and then there's game day. Like, for us, it's not.
Man, I don't even know where to start with the amount of points that you just made. So, for one, I think it's the way the word's used. Some people spin it because they're selling something, and I think that's unfortunate, for one. For two, I think the importance of which word we label. So when I define an athlete that's playing sports, I'm like, man, that guy's an athlete. Like, there's weight to that word. When you say tactical athlete, it's like, hey, we're putting the weight on the wrong side. The weight should be on the tactical side because, like you said, it's what the weight room is completely supportive. Like, that is a thing that you're trying to create a better operator through strength training. Like, but their skill set is the actual job.
Yep.
Like, no different than a quarterback. I'm trying to make a better athlete, but his skill set is what makes him a good quarterback.
Yes.
I am not going to make you a better shooter in the weight room. Now, we can talk about stress and how you manage your stress and arousal. That may help you in a climactic situation or where you have to adapt to things or do something on the ground or maneuver your body.
Perception, change of direction, stuff like that.
For sure. But it is all supportive of that. So for me, it's the weights of the words. And what I really want to hit on is the off season. That is the biggest mistake I see with coaches transitioning into the tactical space is the goal, the finish line. If I have a football player, I know, let's say April 2nd, they have to be for camp or mini camp or whatever. So I can backtrack things like, okay, that's the start day. Let's back things up. Okay, we need to be hitting these benchmarks by this day. We need to start by this day to kind of set that up. You don't have that luxury with the tactical population. And if anything, it's worse because if you go too far, now you take away from their doing the job. Whereas with an athlete, I know you're not going to play a game until Sunday. So throughout the week, if you wanted to add in some extra sprints or some extra work, I know we're okay. We have time to recover. We have time to reset. But with the tactical professional, you do not have that. So to me, it's that mantra of, as a coach, I'd rather be a mile short than an inch too far. Because when we go an inch too far, now I take away from what they're supposed to do. I take away from their ability to buffer stress, to carry someone, to run up a flight of stairs. So it's pretty selfish on my part as a coach to not understand the importance and the weight of that first word of the tactical athlete.
Well said. I mean, you get up in Afghanistan, base camps at 10,000 feet. I mean, you are sucking wind, and a lot of the times we take the same kind of training progression you have at sea level, you implement it now there, but you've never had to climb 3 points of contact for 5 or 6 hours with 80 pounds of stuff on, with now the stress inoculation, sleep deprivation, not good chow, no supplementation, you haven't seen the sun for 90 days. Like, you add in all these different things, and all you're doing is breaking yourself down, but you're still training throughout the entire time, right?
Yeah.
It's not like we're going to do a 4-month training block physically, and then we're going to deploy, do this one thing, and come home. You're going to do that same thing every single day. Some of these guys, I mean, you look at that documentary Restrepo, a year. You're out on an outpost with no showers, eating MREs for a year. Talking about the tactical athlete there.
And there's a psychological thing to that too when you don't know, like, if I'm going to have to do this tomorrow, I might have to do something 3 times tonight. Like, I'll never forget a conversation I had with a firefighter, and they said, people don't understand the weight of showing up to a swimming pool with a dead kid in it and then having to respond to another call that night. And then to go home and see my family, and then the next day to wake up and go do it again.
when I hear tactical athlete, I almost correlate that synonymously with the military, not with first responders and police, SWAT team guys.
That's fair.
Like, they're on every single day. For the military, we're stateside. We have laws in place. We're not operating here. We're still training just as hard as it was overseas. We're not playing the actual game until we get there. Those dudes are playing it every single day.
Mm-hmm.
So there is no rest and rebuild time. A lot of those guys, like, I mean, you're essentially on call 7 days a week. So now talk me through it. There is no build-up. There is no cool-down phase. There's no recovery. It's like, oh, you blew this out. We'll put you on the bench for a little bit. They don't want to be on the bench. So they hide the injuries. And that's where a lot of people, they're not used to dealing with that. You get a guy worth, you're paying him $50 million a year to catch footballs. He tweaks his knee. He's setting out because he doesn't want to get hurt. And these dudes are hiding those injuries because the job needs them so much and they're so addicted to it that you can't ignore it.
Or you report your injury. Now you can't do the job. Now you're mentally scarred. You don't get to be with your boys going out. You're the guy that's sitting back watching people go do missions or go respond to calls. Like, that's almost is more stressful than that. And then, God forbid, something happens and you weren't a part of that. Now you're in even a deeper spot.
Yeah, you lose your sense of purpose really, really fast.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've told you before, I've been hurt in the weight room more times than I have on the battlefield. And a lot of it's, it's battlefield induced, even though it's like, back when CrossFit was huge, they had a workout called, I think it was 3 bars of death. And I'll mess it all up, but I think it was double body weight deadlifts for X amount of reps, multiple cycles through, just, crazy compound loads. And if you don't have the technique involved, your lower back, your hamstrings, your quads are so smoked. And now you throw on a heavy load. Now you're walking for 5 or 6 hours. That's when you exhale at the wrong moment. Your lower back isn't where it needs to be. And now it buckles and now it throws out. The op doesn't care. It doesn't matter. There's no reality where you can just hit the reset button. Like, let me just go in and just chill out for a little. Let me get on the game ready. There's no game ready. Like, now you just have to suck it up. So you at 100%? Absolutely not.
I think it's funny when people say the word recovery, because I do work, and you're friends with quite a few athletes. There's levels to recovery, my friends. And the way people talk about recovery, you're like, well, this athlete, blah, blah, blah. There's not a single military person that has the amount of money or time or availability, even when you were in, and with your job being the peak physical shape, you still didn't have the amount of time that those guys have, or the luxury of, hey, tomorrow's going to be a recovery day. Like, it might be, or you still have to go do something. So it's like understanding what a normal military person's doing for recovery is probably just getting back in their car. Hopefully getting a meal in the next 2 hours. Like, that's the reality of the situation. Is that ideal? Well, you get on Instagram and be like, oh, well, you got to have this, you got to have that. Yeah, but 90% of the population is not doing that.
No.
They're drinking Bang energy drinks, Monster energy drinks, trying to stay awake, dealing with the stress at home, like, to a job that's pretty, it's not the most glamorous. Like, it's not fun to do. It's not like we're heralding heroes anymore. Like, if you're in the military, it's like, oh, well, you didn't have anything better to do? Like, it's not like we're like, man, thank you for your service. It's so rewarding. So now you're a job that's not much approval from society, stress, dealing with stress from home, not getting paid well, and you have to prepare yourself. It's like, that's not a recipe for performance.
No. And I mean, even at the best military facilities out there, I mean, some of the SOCOM programs out there, I mean, you have cryo chambers, you have float tanks, you have contrast baths, you have foam, you have every modality you'd want to. You don't have the time to do them. So what do you end up doing? You drop down in a lunge, kind of stretch out a hip flex for a little bit. Maybe you foam roll, like, seriously, maybe 2 minutes. And you're like, good enough. I got to walk back to chow. If I have time to eat chow, like, right now I have to sacrifice something. If I actually want to do some sort of recovery, if I want to spend 3 minutes in a cryo chamber and actually want to foam roll, I'm not going to make lunch. What's more important to me? I'm not going to get to eat until I go home at 9 o'clock. I'm not foam rolling. I'm not getting this cryo chamber. I'm going to go eat something real quick, and I go upstairs for a brief. That's the reality.
Mm-hmm.
That's Monday through Friday. What happens Saturday and Sunday? You got a wife, you got kids, you got stuff you got to do, and it just slowly but surely you just start to neglect it, negate it. Just, I don't need it until you do need it, because you're getting older every single day. Injuries are stacking up, performance anxiety is stacking up. Before you know it, you're like, man, I have not done any self-care. Like, all this stuff in the gym, for me, I always take it on as self-care. Like, I'm in the gym, I'm working on myself, working on my mental, my physical performance, but I'm not really focused on the recovery aspect because I don't have enough time for it. So what am I really doing? I'm just eating up my energy bank, and now I don't have anything. Like, now playing the Super Bowl. Like, oh,
They don't even do that.
yeah.
They
Nobody
peak for
does
that.
it.
They prepare for that. They're not just like, hey, today we're going to do the Super Bowl. No. They got a game plan. They have to prepare their bodies. They have to prepare their mind. When you respond to a call or you respond to whatever, it's like in the moment, like right now, let's go. There was 2 eye-opening moments for me. I want you to get your opinion on both. The first one, when I was originally tracking like heart rate variability and trying to figure out if there was some sort of connection with guys with training, I couldn't find any connection between high performers, low performers, anything. But the only trend I noticed, and the only trend I noticed that contradicted everything I thought, was guys were more stressed on Monday than they were on Friday. And I remember looking at that going, that doesn't make any sense. And then I started asking guys, why are you more, like, what's wrong? Like, what feels different? He was like, well, been home all weekend. I ate like shit. I watched football. You know, my old lady had me doing this. I was stressed, running around. And then throughout the week, they got into their flow state almost. Like, they get in their routine with work. They work out. And then near the end of the week, they're like, man, I feel great. And then the weekend starts, and it just, boom. And it's just like, how much have I been not considering regarding training that I've never took into consideration this human? Rather than, oh, I'm training this professional. No. I'm training a human that while they're walking in the door is responding to their email from a teacher because they didn't turn in an assignment. Oh, your wife, like, hey, you need to be here at 8 a.m. Take the kids. I'm already running late to a workout. And it's like this human is having to just compartmentalize all this stress and pay attention to me. And it's like I didn't really consider how special that was or how big that was in the moment.
You think about like big days, big push days, because a lot of if you do a really big push day on Monday, Tuesday you're doing the exact same thing. So more often than not, you save a little bit in the tank. Same thing on Wednesday, Thursday. By the time you get to Friday, like, I know I'm gonna have a forced recovery. I'm not gonna do anything physically Saturday and Sunday. Like, I can go all out on Friday. People look forward to it. Vice, I'm trying to do a feathered approach on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. 'Cause I'm trying to save some in the tank. For me, that's always what it's been like. We typically don't slam ourselves on Friday. It's like a feel-good movement. Like, hey,
Yep.
we've been sucking up this whole week. But if you look at it, really Friday is the day where you can really push because now I know I have 2 days off. Like, I can go hard on Friday. Like, everybody's usually in a good mood. Like, we got the weekend we're looking forward to. We got to go. But just like you said, it's navigating human terrain. Everybody's got it going on. I don't care if you're J.J. Watt, whatever else you want to be. Like, they have normal stuff they have to deal with. They got dogs that, took a piss in the middle of the kitchen floor right before they were walking out. Now they're 10 minutes late. Like, now they're stuck behind that school bus they weren't planning on being. Now they walk in. Now the squat rack they were getting in, now it's taken. Now they're bumbling around for 10 minutes. Like, now they're looking at their watch. Like, I didn't have time to do this. Now the stress just builds. Like, I got to get something in. Like, it sucks, man. But I mean, if you don't look at them, and that's what I always hated about a lot of stuff in the military. I felt like people looked at you like a magnet on a whiteboard. That magnet on a whiteboard has 2 arms, 2 legs, got a head, got a family attached to them. They got cars, they got mortgage, they have all this other stress that has nothing to do with this one thing. If you don't add that as a sum of all parts, you're missing 90% of who that person actually is.
Yeah.
Like, how good they are at compartmentalization, to me, directly correlates to how they are in the gym, how they are in the field, how they are in the training room. Like, it's a sum of all parts, man. And I think you said it. You're dealing with people. They're not magnets on a whiteboard. That is not a superhuman athlete. That's a normal dude. That's Bill.
And I think, even working with you, like, you see dudes that do amazing things, have amazing stories, and you realize that this guy is just as stressed about the small shit as I am. Like he may do some amazing heroic things, but he's still agitated about running behind. He's still agitated about their kids not doing their homework, getting in an argument with their mom. Like, he's still trying to get his kid to go to bed at 9 p.m. Like, the same stuff that I'm doing. So it was like totally like a shot in the face. And the second one was the concept of periodization in programming. And me and you have spoke about this quite a bit, is as a coach, if you're training an athlete, it's like, I'm going to peak them towards the season or towards camp or whatever it is. Where with working with the military, people's like, oh, I'm gonna do the same thing. You're getting ready for a deployment, and it's like, it's almost like a backwards approach. Like you, and I realize this conversations with you and other guys, you have more time and bandwidth to train while you're actually gone doing the job than when you're here. Because that, I could be misspoken, but that block before you deploy, that's when you're the busiest.
Yeah.
So it's almost like that's the busiest you are throughout the year. Plus, you're probably trying to scramble moments with your family. You don't have the most time for the gym. But once you get there, it's like, I don't want to be mean, but your family's not there, obviously. No. The work is only at specific times, maybe at nighttime. You have the entire day. You can plan your day, you can train appropriately, and that was mind-blowing because at no point in college, at no point did any mentor I have ever had said the most time they have to train is while they're supposedly the most stressed.
Right.
And as a coach, it's like, how the hell do I program that? But it's like talking to that person, but it's like, and then you've said in the past, like, that's the most calm I've ever felt. Like in those moments of doing things, like, because it's just a flow state and you just flow and you're not stressed. And that thought is so interesting.
Yeah, man. And when you don't have the wife there, you don't have the kids there, the hot water heater doesn't bother you, the minivan needs a state inspection, none of that matters to you. You don't have to think about any of that. That's what you said. You just have nothing but bandwidth. Mm-hmm. And now I can train. I know exactly how much time until we typically go out or whatever we're going to do. We'll say we leave at midnight. Well, if I wake up at 3 p.m., I can get my fitness in. I've got a huge block. I can actually do some focus recovery. I can get on the foam roller. We don't have cryo and contrast baths. We don't have all that, but I can do a contrast shower.
I mean, you got time.
Yeah, but I've got my protein. I've got focus blocks. I can sit down like, what are you going to do for the next 3 hours? Nothing. I'm going to take a nap. I'm going to recover. So you see guys, and that's, one of the quintessential things, like, well, you've been on steroids on deployment? Like, no, but you see these guys make these crazy growth changes, like physically. Like, well, how'd you do that? And all I do is sleep, eat, and lift.
Yeah.
And like, well, how many hours you sleeping? Like, do I, guys? We call them the mantras. Part man, part mattress. Like, brother, you're sleeping 13 hours a day. When you see him come back, like, dude, you've gained 20 pounds of sheer muscle. Like, I didn't change anything. The only thing you're doing now is actually recovering. There's no more stress right now because your actual job, you love it. You seek it out. There's no more administrative stress on you right now. All you have to do is the job, make sure you're physically there. But that goes into having a really good training plan stateside. You can adopt to your current reality when you get overseas. Mm-hmm. If you don't know how to do that, a lot of guys, they push way too hard. I've definitely been one of those guys, especially when I first got to Afghanistan, lifting super heavy legs. I've never been deployed at 9,000 feet. I don't know what that feels like. You find out really, really fast. Like, my legs are shot. We're going out tonight. Cool. Take one step off, and you're like, oh no. Oh no. Like, I've already got a thigh pump. Oh no, here we go. And it just gets worse and worse. And slow but surely you start to train smarter, not harder. The focus recovery, and you start to save some in the tank. For the parts of my body that I know aren't going to be just crushed throughout this entire night, I save those moments. So that might be, hey, we're not going heavy legs on this deployment. Like, we're going to do a lot of mobility, a lot of flexibility, a lot of, explosive movements, and then a lot of just long durations. That's an incline treadmill walk, just building up your tolerance, building up your stamina for stuff you're actually going to use. But we can't blow it out. If I pull a hamstring right now, like, it's over.
Yeah. So
a lot of like when we train for essentially the NFL Combine. We do the shuttle drills and the cone drills and all of that. Does that have any application overseas? No, not really, but if you have that baseline, you can always apply it later. But guys aren't doing that overseas because you don't want to risk rolling an ankle. You won't see too many guys doing crazy Olympic lifts either. I mean, like right now I got a pulled trap. Like, you pull a trap, you tweak a neck, it's not getting better. You don't have the support backside. I think a lot of people lose sight of that. There's not a phys tech or some physical therapist that's going to be able to snap their fingers and make you right.
No, not
You've got to train super, super smart right now because every night is essentially going to be your Super Bowl. You never know when that call's coming.
As a professional, so the tactical athlete, I would per se, not just me, but you've had some really good coaches. What advice would you give a coach that is working with tactical professionals regarding the job?
You need to be putting those guys in a position to complement the job itself. not trying to create these amazing athletes who happen to do a tactical job. They do the tactical job first, and everything you're doing is really just trying to bolster them up, to put them in a better position, making sure you're not crippling the machine in the process. You get so many guys who they want to hang their hat on something. Like, you might have this amazing background in Olympic lifting, and that's all you preach. Like, everybody needs to be doing hang cleans and, this and that, and clean and jerks. But if they don't have the technique, if you're not on the gym floor with them, that's the only thing they know. That tends to be what they try to emulate when they get overseas, and they don't have the coach there. They don't have a guy to, hey man, your form's kind of going to shit right now. Like, why don't we drop the weight? Why don't we do this? Why don't we change up modalities? You don't have that dude to push and pull on you when they see the physical changes in you, the mental changes in you. Like, you see me come here in the morning, just head hung low, I'm in my feels, like, we're changing the whole plan. They don't have that guy there. So if you're not connecting to that person on a human level, he's never going to have that trust, and you're never going to have that advanced understanding of who that dude is as an individual, their pre-existing injuries, the injuries they're hiding from you, and then really what the ultimate focus is, and that's on target. You got to put them in the best position to be able to have a positive outcome on target, and it can't be inhibited by anything in the gym. I feel like so many people, they try to make, like a Lance Armstrong in 2007. It's like, I get it, man. Like, you can make a superhuman. That's not what we need right now. We need someone who's well-rounded in everything. And we had Dan John. I'm a huge Dan John fan. He came in and did a seminar at the command. We were there, and he's like, I'm trying to create athletes that are C+ striving for a B- student. Everything you do, C+ to B-. If you're an all-star and you're an Olympian marathon runner, the chance of you picking up that dude who weighs 240, throwing him over your shoulder and run up a flight of stairs, or carrying him up and over a wall, slim to none. But if we can get you to where you can run a 7:30 mile for 5 miles, you can also sprint super fast, you can also bench press your body weight X amount of times and do pull-ups with weight on and be agile and mobile, that is a much better approach than a one-trick pony. And I feel like a lot of guys, they get stuck in that one-trick pony mentality. Like, I'm creating endurance athletes. Not really. Like, I'm trying to be power athletes, strength focused, nothing but strength. Like, there's got to be a mobility aspect. There's got to be an agility aspect. You've got to make them well-rounded. And it doesn't have to be an A+ across everything. Because if you look at that, I equate it to like that Jason Bourne mentality. You're not going to get a dude who's a professional Muay Thai fighter, a black belt in BJJ, speaks 5 languages, can shoot, move, and communicate, can skydive at professional level, can scuba dive at professional level, can mission plan at a high level, can take in all the environmentals and be able to paint a picture so vivid he can actually go out and attack it. You can't create that person if all you're doing is trying to make the next gold medal Olympiast in every single aspect. You just can't do it. We've got to find a common ground that he's well-rounded. How good is he? He's good. Is he great at everything? No, he's great at that job, and he's really good at everything else. Like, he's not the best at everything because we can't have him just be a one-trick pony. Right? You can have things you excel at a little bit, but I take it back, man. Like, for me to be a marathon runner, I'd have to be 155, 160 pounds. I can't do my job at 160 pounds. I just can't. Like, I can't do all the other things I need to be able to do. I can't climb up a 60-foot caving ladder with 100 pounds of stuff on in crazy seas and swells. I can't do that. I've got to be well-rounded. That's what I try to tell everybody now. If I had one thing, I'd get you a coach that wants to make you well-rounded.
I'm going to speak to the camera and say that is the most perfect thing that I hope every coach takes into consideration. That was absolutely perfectly said. I have nothing to follow that up. That is 100% the issue. And with working with people that are reliant on that, I had a coach, a mentor of mine, when I first started working with football players, and I was like, I can't get these guys to do these movements. Like, I'm having a hard time getting them to trust me that they should be doing these movements. And very, not profound, but he told me, you have to remember they are football players. They are not weightlifters. You have to convince them that weightlifting will help them become a football player and connect those dots for them. If not, they will always perceive it as, why am I doing this? And in that moment, I was like, oh, I'm just a support guy. This is not, like, I'm not here. I'm not the main entree. I'm the appetizer. Like, I understand that now. And that it was like that moment, I was like, okay, what am I really doing? Let's keep the main thing the main thing. This dude is a tactical superstar. How can weight training, mobility, all these other things make him more robust to do that, to do it longer? And it was like, okay, now I need to change my training philosophy to model after that concept, keeping him in the game, optimizing where he's at, making sure he's resilient. And it's like, oh, okay.
I mean, you've worked with a bunch of college athletes and you've been to all the universities and done all that. Will you walk me through what their gym sessions look like preseason until they get into season? Because I was pretty shocked when I went down there and I kind of heard some of the schools of thought.
So there's different worlds that you can come from. Some people, like you said, if you're a powerlifting coach, then you believe powerlifting is all whatever. If you're a sprint coach, you think sprinting, velocity-based training. If you believe in Olympic weightlifting, then your program's going to revolve around that. But for the most part, the profession is starting to shift towards perceiving the word athlete as more valuable. Like, I'm not just trying to create a big, huge guy. Like, now they're creating big, huge guys that can sprint crazy fast. Like a 6'7" dude running a 4.6 should not happen. But it's like in the past, it would be like, oh, we're just going to get huge and get strong. But it's like, no, we can get huge and strong and fast and mobile and resilient to stress. So it's like, now there's training worlds that are completely changing, but for the most part, you get these young high schoolers, especially in college, that have never really had a consistent meal prep. So the second they start eating consistent meals, they're going to gain a lot of weight. 18 years old, full of testosterone, 3-4 meals a day, you're going to put on weight like quick. So it's building them up to face men. Like, call it what it is. Like, it's a collision sport, football specifically. You're hitting another man that's probably maybe 2 years older than you. He's a senior, probably playing. He's been in a weight room for 2-3 years with who knows, but a good strength coach, some sort of supplementation, some sort of meal plan. So it's like realizing that this is a boy playing against men, and now how can we mold this boy to be that? And then for the season, I mean, man, you have some coaches that believe in in-season liftings. You have some coaches that don't believe in it. So I think it just matters what school you're at. Right now, I think the best coaches are preparing their athletes for the demands of the sport. So more on the sprint side, more on the functional movements. A lot of closed train, like wrestling, is becoming like a big thing, involving like rugby. Like we did all that stuff on the ground, like stuff like that, involving dynamic movements like that. And then during the season, continuing that, like still lifting heavy, but maybe not as much. So understanding, like, if we have a game on Saturday, we may get a lift in on like Monday or Tuesday. So we're still touching a lift, but it's not nearly what our out of season lifts are, but it's the same movements. Maybe we touch them for half the reps. Maybe it's more on the intensity side, less on the volume from like a weight standpoint, more speed of the bar, less weight on the bar. But you'll see them both played, but like the traditional way of looking at training has definitely changed in the past couple years.
I mean, when I went down to a couple of these colleges, I was kind of blown away because in my mind, just coming from my background, I figured those guys trained Monday through Friday. They took Saturday off, they played on Sunday, and I thought in-season would be the exact same thing. Maybe just tailored back. Maybe Monday's a lift, Tuesday's agility, they're watching game film, Wednesday's a scrimmage, a practice, special teams, whatever. Thursday it's something else, like some light, some recovery, but active movement. I thought they would be in that gym some way, shape, or form at least 3 to 4 days out of the week, and it is not the case. And when you look at our sport, that's where the whole tactical athlete thing kind of throws me off. Like, well, if we were tactical athletes, we would adopt that.
You train twice a week?
Exactly. It's like, well, we don't. Why? It's like, why don't we?
That is a great point.
If it's the same thing and we're paying these dudes millions of dollars, investing all this time and all this money and all this focus on these people, I'll just be honest, there is this many of me on this planet right now, and we don't do that. Why?
So the only reason that I could think of is, for one, most tactical people like working out. Okay. They enjoy working out, and maybe not the most popular answer, it's free. So you working out, going to the gym throughout the week is a lot easier than you going to the range every single day, or arranging range time, or arranging skydive tunnel hours, like those things are very expensive. So if you were to prioritize that same skill set in the opposite way, it would be very expensive, which most people don't have the bandwidth for that.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I had 3 great mentors in human performance. I had Sean Holes.
Yeah.
Who came over from Team 10 with us. He ran everything at Group 2. I would love to watch you and him sit down in the room and just chop it up. He's phenomenal. You'd love him. And then he came over to the command with me later on. I had Mike Sanders in there, who's down in Tampa with 7th Group now. That dude, when you're talking about buy-in, because we always talk about that, like how do we get these people to do it? If he does the programming and he looks the way you want to look, and he speaks to you like you're a person, he was one of the best I've ever seen. He looked like Leonidas from 300. Had this huge tapered beard. I mean, 6'2", 230, carved out of fucking granite. And when he walked in, he's like, "This is what we're doing." Like,
Yes, we are.
yeah, we are. For sure. When I took the 2 of those guys and I put them together, you were what came out. Right? You had everything they had, but I thought you packaged it in a digestible format based around the human aspect more than I'd ever seen before. Like, Sean's amazing, Mike's amazing, and I'd love to see where they're at now in their progression, because that's the one thing I really took away from you. Is like, you took all of the external things into consideration when we were programming. Pre-existing injuries, stress on the family life, stress as a person, missing lifts, everything. Just look at the sum of all parts. Like, how am I going to get this dude to the finish line even though he doesn't want to get to a finish line? How am I going to give him just a nudge? Like, when he doesn't have the motivation, what am I going to give him? It's like, "Oh, dude, you got one more in you." When I'm telling myself I don't, it's like, shit, coach thinks I got one more in me. And I do. I got one more. I'm like, damn it. Like, I'm glad he didn't say 3 more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's like, that daily interaction has gone so far with me, and I know it goes with everybody else. I mean, I've definitely had coaches that write down a bunch of stuff on a whiteboard, can't demo it. They're not on the weight room floor with you. They can't give you critiques. They can't give you criticism, positive or negative. They're not really there. They write it on the whiteboard and they leave. It's like, yeah, I guess. There's no real buy-in with it.
Yeah.
That's what I really appreciate. People that have lived it, people that have actually do it, and you can demo it. And when they're better than you already, it's that much easier to buy in. It's like, not only am I going to demo the exercise, I'm going to do it with more weight than you are for more reps than you are. And it's like, at least I got somebody to chase. Like, I've always loved that aspect.
So I'll one up that word. When I hear the word buy-in, the biggest miss I think in the coaching world is coaches use that word for you, athletes, to buy in to my programming, buy into my training. It is a one-way street. I never buy into you. That's weird. If I'd be like, "Hey man, I buy into you," you'd be like, "What the fuck does that mean?" It is a one-way street where trust is a two-way street. I trust that you're going to give me honest feedback. I trust that you're going to give me effort. I trust that you're going to tell me what's going on in your life. And you trust that I'm giving you the right programming. I'm giving you the right stress level. I'm giving you the right movements when you need them according to your injuries. So even that word of buy-in, for me, a good coach recognizes that it's a two-way street of building trust, not just expecting, "Hey, I'm the coach here at 7th Group or something. Everyone listen to me." Good luck. I can't tell you how many coaches I've talked to and they'd be like, "Man, I can't get the guys to listen to me." Have you tried talking to them? Have you tried doing anything besides just putting the workout up on the board, telling them what they're doing today? Have you asked them how they feel? Have you asked them what they want to do? Like, that is the biggest thing when coaching. It's like, well, what exercise? There might be an exercise. I give the crawling example. When you told me crawling was a punishment, crawling is a great exercise. Close chain movement for the shoulder. If the guy doesn't want to do it, find another way. Yeah. When you become like, "Oh, my identity is Olympic lifting," you don't want to do Olympic lifting. I better figure out another way to get those stimulus.
Well, I mean, you get guys with pre-existing injuries. They can't do it, and they don't want to say it. So what do? They muscle through it anyway because they don't want to show weakness. They don't want to raise their hand like, "Hey, man, like, I shattered my collarbone. I got this going on. Like, I can't do this." What do? They just try to get through it anyway. It's like compounding injuries, just stacking over and over and over. It's like, it just takes one coach to look over and like, rotate your elbow as high as you can. "Oh, brother, you don't even have mobility for this right now.
Yeah.
Come over here." No, stop.
Exactly.
Right? Look, not a magnet on a whiteboard. Right? That's John. John, come over here real quick. We got to work on some shoulder mobility, brother. You can't even do this right now. Like, you can't even get your fingers back right now. Stop everything. Let's reassess. Let's reattack.
There's a difference between fitting a human into a program versus programming for a human.
I agree.
Like if I say I might have the idea of like, hey, I want to do these things. Okay, that's fair. What's the reality? We want to do a horizontal press. Maybe you can't bench. Whatever maybe you just don't want to, and you're like, man, I don't like it. It makes my shoulder feel cool. I'm not married to bench press. I'm married to pressing. So let's find a pressing alternative that works for you, that you like doing, that we can provide a progressive stimulus to chase a goal, to make you feel good. Like it doesn't. I should not dictate what exercises we choose. Your ability, your injury history should.
Well said. Yeah, man, it's always nice to see people get out of that one-trick pony mentality. Like, it's running the whiteboard, man. That's all you got. And I've had multiple coaches that have done that. What do you want me to do? Well, I mean, I kind of want you to make a program tailored to me. Like, kind of. You know what I mean? Like,
that's a steep ask, man. What are you talking about?
Like, there's not many of me. Like, can you just make a program just for me? Like, I can't do that. Like, I've had ACL reconstruction. Like, I'm not doing depth jumps off a 48-inch box jump. I'm not doing that. Like, it's not worth it. Like, well, if you don't want to do the workout, don't do the workout. Like, that's usually the answer. Well, if you don't want to do it, don't do it. It's not what I'm saying, dude. I'm here to train. Like, I want to train, but you don't realize what's going to happen in 3 months when I go overseas. And if I blow this thing out and I can't make that rotation, my career's over.
My problem with coaches when they say stuff like that is when someone comes to someone and they say, can you make a program just for me? As a coach, I know how much intensive that is. I'm like, man, I'm going to make a custom program for DJ with all of his issues. Like, where do I start? In reality, it's just, what is everyone else doing? Whatever that normal thing was, how can I tailor that to you? That's what it's more of. Like, we could all be doing the same thing, but maybe you do dumbbell bench press. Maybe instead of the depth jump, you do a step up. Maybe you do some sort of a different variation that you're more comfortable with. It's not like you're adding this external load of all of these programs you have to create now, but it's like slight regressions or progressions off movements that you program. But if you're a good coach and you can work with a team, which I think is a skill in itself, you can empower you with like, hey, are you doing good today? I got squats programmed, but you're crushing it. Why don't we let's add some weight? Let's go with a Hatfield squat. Oh, your back's giving you issues. Hey, when your back's giving you issues, you're just gonna go with the belt squat. Don't even ask me. Like, I don't need to know. I'll know when I see you on it. That's what's going on. And it's like giving people that ability to move forward, move back, or stay where they're at. Like, as a coach, like that's a custom program. You created a custom outline with autonomy that now this person can regulate with you not even there. And that, you should be coaching yourself out of a job. I fully believe like you should be teaching people how to do things, why they're doing them, which ways, so that you don't have a job anymore. And they just want you there because of your personality and who you are. That should be the end goal as a coach.
That's what I want as a coach. That's why I got you. I mean, it's the truth, man. I mean, search high and low trying to find someone that can, read me for who I am and make me a program that'll keep me in line. And when I have my bad days, tailor back. When I have my good days, we're hammering all the way forward, and be able to see me see me as a whole vessel, not just what I'm projecting, but what I am. Because I hide stuff too. I hide stuff from you, and you see it right away. You're like, what's going on with you? I was like, no, I'm good. You're like, no, you're not.
Yeah.
It's like, I got this thing I'm dealing with. Well, let's deal with it. Just like today. Like, we didn't move today. Like, I did, an hour of soft tissue work.
Yeah.
I had another appointment I had to go to. Like, I couldn't have pressed today.
Yeah.
I couldn't do anything.
There's nuance that comes with that, and trust that has to be built, though. Because if you came in and you were like, man, my shoulder's giving me issues. I was like, oh, no bench today. That, you could have been looking forward to that moment. Mm-hmm. You just had a rough morning. You're like, man, I just want to get on that fucking bench and press. And now I just took it from you. I took your therapy away. That you were looking forward to those moments of grabbing that bar, feeling that tension, feeling it touch your chest, get it away. And I just snatched it. For what? So it's like understanding when you need to get in and when you need to pull back. Like, hey, your shoulder's giving you issues. Okay, let's see what we can do. Let's see what it's capable of. Maybe we warm up way longer. Maybe we make it so conversational that you forget that your shoulder's giving you issues. Maybe I give you a great leg pump and hip mobility so you totally forget that your shoulder's giving you issues. Then we go bench press. Or maybe we just do a whole different exercise altogether. But as a coach, it's like, hey, this is a human. He really likes benching. Maybe him coming and telling me about his shoulder. Maybe he's like somewhat like he's stressed. He didn't sleep well. He's kind of throwing it out there because he knows we're hitting 3 reps today. And he's like, I don't know if I can hit those numbers I hit last week. So he's kind of just putting it out, manifesting it. Like if it doesn't happen, he can fall back and be like, remember my shoulder? Remember I'm giving issues? And it's like understanding what's important, what's priority, what is a deal breaker, and what is maybe this dude's just trying to vent to me. Maybe he's just a complainer. Maybe he's someone that just always complains about his shoulder. And if I just completely say no more shoulder stuff, now I just hurt this person. Like I made them a victim versus, hey, he needs to use that shoulder. His shoulder's fine. It's his mental block is just crushing him. His kinesiophobia of a shoulder and, I don't know, man. Anytime, it's like, no, you stop thinking that. Let's find movements that feel good. So there's so much nuance in navigating human terrain, which you've said, when it comes to coaching, in my opinion, a tactical professional. Like there's a lot of ego. There's a lot of, I used to be able to bench. There's a lot of, well, back in the day, yeah, you were also 40 pounds lighter. You graduated high school, what, $160? Yeah, I bet you could run a mile in 6 minutes. You're 160 pounds. Yep. You're 240. That's not going to happen. But you don't want it to happen either, like you said. I'm not asking you to run a 6-mile run up Afghanistan. I'm asking you to walk at a slow pace with good posture so your back doesn't hurt. And I don't want to outkick my coverage, but like...
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's why I go to him. Get a guy that can look at you as the entire picture and then not let you give up when you want to. Right? See it for what it is. Tailor the program that makes sure you're still hitting all the wickets you want to. But yeah, I mean, that's why the trust has been so big over the last 5 years. And I think it's because we haven't missed any sessions together. Like now I know. And the same thing when you come in. Like I can tell you're in a mood.
Yeah, I wear it.
Yeah, it's like, okay, not going to be all chit-chatty today. We're probably going to get this workout a little bit quicker. So now we're not going to be in that conversation pace, but it's cool. Still help you and push when I can, but give you that room to kind of soak in it. Like, if he wants to talk, he'll talk. I'm going to spot him when he needs a spot and let him get through it.
As a coach, it's so refreshing when people wear their emotions, though, because that means you've created a space that they can be vulnerable to show how they feel and not be scared like, Vernon's not going to fucking stop. He's going to be like, dude, what's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? But if you can hear him, like, I know what's up, man. If you need something, we can walk later. That's cool. But it's like when someone shows that emotion, it's like, okay, this is good. This is a good environment because they are comfortable enough to share that vulnerability that I'm not going to take away their workout. I'm not going to be like, workout's off today. Let's just do mobility stuff. DJ's stressed. We would never work out.
That's one of the things I didn't like about, what was that heart rate monitor thing we used to do?
Omega Wave?
The Omega Wave?
Yep.
I'll just be honest. I'll just say it for those who have never put that thing on. You put on this heart rate monitor, it gives you a reading. Green, you're ready to go. Yellow, probably take it easy. Red, takes a day off. I was in a red for months on end. I never hit a yellow or a green. And they're like, well, just don't lift. Like, well, that's not going to happen. Because then I feel like shit.
I contacted Omega Wave about you because we trained every day and every day you were red. And I was like, what am I supposed to do with this guy? I'm learning this technology and this guy should not be training ever. But he shows up and he puts out like his heart rate's in control. He's not overly sore. He's getting enough sleep. His subjective questionnaire is great. Like, what am I supposed to do? And they're like, well, they're kind of guidelines, and they're now I don't want to get off a tangent, but what pissed me off about that specific piece of equipment is there was a rumor that they were going to start using that in the military with taking guys off of missions if they were red. And I instantly contacted my person and I said, if Steph Curry was red Game 7 of the finals, would he play? And they were like, well, I mean, we can't take him out of the game. And I was like, that's my point. Just because some data says something, that does not mean this guy's coming out. Like, if you want to make sure that he should do additional recovery now, okay, I get that. Like, hey, you need to recover a little bit longer. Maybe we lower our volume a little bit, but, like, he's still going to go do that job.
And, people throw this out like, well, you got to take 5 days off. Do that. Still in the red. You're red every day, all 5 days.
We stopped doing it because of that, man. It's annoying.
Well, that, and then it's so different. I used to have the Oura ring.
Yeah.
I got so addicted, and it's not a shot on those guys. If If anybody has an Oura Ring, use them. For me, I became obsessed with the data. I'd look at him like, I didn't even touch REM sleep last night. Like, I got 3.5 hours of sleep, and then I'd wear it. I'd wake up in the morning, like, God damn it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'd feel myself getting more tired. The moment I'd pull the thing off, I'm like, I don't have any data to support it. Now it's just me. Like, I feel fine. I'm pushing. Next day, I feel fine. I'm pushing. If I put that ring back on, it's like, oh, you only got 9 minutes of REM sleep last night. Probably should take the day off. Like, yeah, I'm done with you. I took it off and I never put it back on.
I remember that.
Yeah, like I don't want anything telling me what I should be doing. I want to base it off of me.
Data should be an indicator for trends, not control your programming. And the best example I can give, similar to an Oura Ring, is I had a guy that I was working with, military guy. He was an alcoholic and drank a lot, like heavily. And I got him to wear an Oura Ring. And it was specifically to notice trends with his sleep and his stress around his life. And we started to notice, and I didn't let him download it on his app so he could see it. I had it. So I noticed when he was, when his HRV was low, high, how accurate that is. That's not what I'm trying to get into. But we noticed based off of him popping up, like, man, you had a really bad sleep last night. What'd you get into yesterday? And he was like, oh, Sunday football, just, drank a lot, ate a lot. And I was like, okay. A couple days later, dang, man, no sleep. How'd you do last night? He's like, drank a lot, blah, blah, blah. And then it was like 2 weeks later, I was like, hey, you noticed that when you drink a lot, your sleep really sucks and you feel really stressed, and you always tell me you get in an argument with your wife and whatnot around that time? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, just word for caution. And I'll never forget that first weekend he didn't drink alcohol when he watched football. And I kind of get goosebumps thinking about it. And he, to my knowledge, hasn't drank since. And his wife texted me like a month later and was like, hey, just so you know, that ring saved his life. He has not drank alcohol since then. To me, that is what that data is. If it can help uncover a lifestyle that you're living, or you're chronically not getting enough sleep, or you're chronically not doing something, that's that specialty. But on a daily basis, you cannot let it control if you're not going to train for the day. That's completely unrealistic.
I think a lot of people wanted to adopt it for that.
That's exactly what they
want. Just
wanted.
gives me a reason to recover, more focused recovery. Well, what do you do if it never goes green? You just really going to trust it blindly? Like, I can't do that, man. I know myself better than that app does. If I'm honest with myself. And I'm honest with myself, my coach, we know better.
And there's something special about that. That subjective feeling of like, when I ask you, how are you feeling? That's a real, in my opinion as a coach, that is a true marker for data and readiness. If I know you, and I know you, and I say, hey, how are we feeling? Man, I feel good. Sick. I don't need to know anything else. If you're like, feel 100%. Well, I know that's a lie. Well, I know that's true. So it's like that subjective feeling and asking how someone feels, that is so impactful.
I agree.